22, 23, and 24, as a board member, I follow governance. I mean, are we speaking for everyone or for ourselves? Because I think, so I don't, so that's just for future.
Because it's hard because there's a CSBA moderator that used to say something like, don't lose your I and me, but but we have to work together as we, or so. It's a more elegant way to say it, but it's true. Some of these sections, and I think I shared that it's a self-evaluation, but as a whole, we come together. It's an arranged marriage, so we have to kind of talk as a group, but then individually as well. And I think that all board members receive the same information. I think the only reason why I put often is that I remember a past board member saying, the agenda settings are kind of like gems because you're having more of a conversation because there's only 2 members, and so those you might get little gems that don't get pushed out. And that's the only reason why I did often, and it's not a complaint or anything. It's just that it's true that you get more personable conversations because it's more casual.
Anything else you'd like captured here?
Yeah.
Are you ready to move on to board meetings?
Anyone need to?
Excuse me.
Are we ready to move on?
I think we're ready.
Okay, the board agrees on the role of the board president in managing board meetings. Mary?
Almost always.
Kathy?
Almost always.
Scott?
Almost always.
Jerry?
Almost always.
And Diana?
Almost always.
The board meeting agendas reflect district priorities. Kathy?
Often.
Diana?
Almost always.
Jerry?
Almost always.
Mary?
Almost always.
And Scott?
Almost always.
Board members come to meetings prepared. Scott?
Often.
Mary?
Often.
Kathy?
Often.
Diana?
Often.
Jerry?
Often.
The board confines its meetings to a reasonable length of time. Jerry?
Often.
Diana?
I put often.
Mary?
Often.
Scott?
Often.
Kathy?
Often.
There is a good relationship between how long the board spends on an agenda item and the importance of them. Scott?
Sorry, I have to look. Less often.
Okay, is that the middle?
It is the third one, yes.
Kathy?
I put often.
Diana? Diana, are you there?
He's frozen.
She's frozen.
Yeah, she's trying to move. Okay, Jerry?
Almost always.
Mary?
Often.
Diana?
What question are you on? I think I missed.
There is a good relationship between how long the board spends on an agenda item and the importance of the item.
Often.
Okay. The board effectively manages community input at board meetings. Mary?
Almost always.
Kathy?
I put often.
Scott?
Almost always.
Jerry?
Often.
Diana?
Almost always.
Are there comments you'd like me to capture in this section?
I just wanted to ask what it meant, why we picked often for reasonable length of time of the meeting.
Which question, Diana?
Number
28. And the reason, well, I'll go. The reason I put it there is I think it's more about the relationship to 29. You know, sometimes I think trying to balance being a productive meeting and in providing information to the public and spending going almost over the top. I just think it's a balance, and that's why I put that there.
And I would add to that that exact thing, that we need to respect. Depending on the gravity of the topic, we need to respect it with enough time given to it. I'd use the November board meeting for that we read all the letters in their entirety because they deserve to be read. Mm-hmm. And, we need to respect that.
So do we think that the meetings are too long or too short?
I think that most things that happen after 9 o'clock don't get our best performance.
Yeah, I just feel like we were just saying that our meetings are shorter with virtual, but they don't go over. I mean, in the old days, it would go until 10. So I feel like the length of the meetings, but maybe the quality of the discussion needs to be more balanced with kind of what Kathy was saying.
I think for as many things as we had last night, we did a pretty good job of getting out of here by 9 o'clock. So,
Do you want me to memorialize that comment from Jerry?
Which one?
The one that
turning into pumpkins after 9 o'clock, or
the most productive conversations happen before 9.
Mm-hmm. We should look at the board policy, because it actually says that we need to extend the meeting after 10:30. So I really think that we would be melting by that time. But normally we always kind of look at the clock at 10, like, okay, let's cut it because we're getting wonky.
Well, the issue too is that many times we're in action items at that time.
Well, and maybe we could look at the agenda. When we look at some of the MIG stuff, do we have the order and an appropriate? Normally at the end, do you put the action at the end? Is that normal on other agendas?
We have discussion at the end. We put action much higher.
Mm-hmm.
Well, much higher before it.
Right. Well, usually it seems like it's board policies at the end. I feel like the last hour is generally
board policy.
Going through board policy.
So we have discussion at the end. We always try and do the reports first because those are the people who tend to visit. And because there's not action, we put them at the beginning of the agenda instead of having the reports at the end. I think that practice should continue because you don't want people coming to our meeting who have to wait through, an hour of board action before they can come and then go. So out of respect for people's time, like Kevin last night, the good news is it was virtual. So I was able to tell him, okay, this is the time that you're going to be talking. And he can pop in and pop out without having to travel. But just out of respect for people who come to us, especially when we go back live, because we are such a remote community, I think it's important to keep those reports up front. I think one of the things that we should talk about is the board reporting and maybe trying to minimize it a little bit and what things we do want to report on. I think the community and your constituents do want to see that you are connected to the schools. But Kathy, I think you tried to start this as a trend to say, okay, what are the things that all of us did so we can keep it to a couple of bullet points instead of that going so lengthy. Because there's 5 of you.
We've tried a couple things where we listed what we all did, and then each person. Then we brought up the idea of trying to just do a shout out to the school, but then that's not really what Anna said that's not, because I wanted to change it on the agenda to try to keep us really focused on what we were saying, and I was like, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be. So, I don't know how to.
The real difficulty here is that the only time you can talk to each other and share what you're doing is at your meeting. That's the pickle. You don't get to talk to each other at any other moment. You can see each other at the grocery store, but all you can do is talk about your kids and your family. Mm-hmm. So there's a gentle balance with this.
So why don't we move the board and superintendent reports to after the action items?
Because that's some of the stuff that happens, that's where the SARCs go. That's where, actually those are action, aren't they? There are certain things that get reported that need to happen first. Like yesterday, QKA was under the superintendent report.
Okay, I got you.
Right. Well, I think the order, it sounds like the order is appropriate, what we have in order. And the shout out for the schools is difficult now because we have a student rep. So it feels like it's taking away from his little job if we're, finding out the same thing that he's doing. But maybe just having a comment on here, being mindful of balancing, and spending balancing the time you spend on each agenda item and being mindful of that. Like, if we could maybe have that as a comment in this section. Mary?
Well, could we move, whoops, just knocked my headphone off. Could we move the board reporting to the end when we do right before housekeeping? I mean, if the point of it is for us to share with each other what we've been doing, and we're talking to them next thing about what we're going to do the next month for DLAC and ELAC and Parents Club and Site Council and whatnot, because I don't know how interested the community is in hearing about the CSBA conference or, the different things, the MECA meeting or the Friends of Mendocino College meeting, that kind of thing.
I think Ukiah does that. I could be wrong.
They do it at the end?
The board reports come at the end. That's something we could think about and talk further at the workshop in January.
So can we have a possible, when we have somebody that's doing a board report that's coming from far, far away, can they have the option to virtually come to our meeting? We have great screens in the room 306. Since everybody's used to doing virtual meetings now, then they wouldn't have to leave the board meeting at 8:30 and drive back to San Rafael or something like that,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I have to tell you that one of the very few silver linings of COVID is that it has proven to so many people in our county that we can conduct business in a virtual way. And I say that because living in Fort Bragg, in order for us to get to Ukiah, it's an hour and a half one way, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't ever want to go to Ukiah for a meeting again if I don't have to. It's 3 hours of my life that can be saved. And I met with other superintendents and they said, oh, Becky, I get so much done in the car. I hold meetings, I can, and I'm like, you can't do anything on Highway 20 other than listen to your tunes and bop out, which is not a bad thing, but it's a long time. It's a long time. So I agree with you, Jerry. That's the point that I was trying to make. Yes, sir.
We used to get invited to workshops in Ukiah, and it's like, well, can you just virtually send them over to the Dietrich Center? It was like, oh no, we can't do that. So
I know.
And that's just in 5 or 6 years. That's evolved into like it's almost the preferred method.
So I will capture also that allowing folks to come in virtually. Far off.
Out of the area.
Speakers report virtually.
Anything else you'd like to capture here?
Anyone?
Okay, shall we move on to this then, Diana? Are you ready?
Yes, the board development.
Okay. The board agrees on the process for electing officers. Kathy?
Often.
Scott?
Middle one.
Mary?
Often.
Jerry?
Often.
Diana?
Often.
The board plans for development and training of the board. Scott?
Almost always.
Mary?
Almost always.
Diana?
Almost always.
Kathy?
I put less often.
So is that this one?
The middle one.
Middle one. And Jerry?
Yeah, I'm going to be very generous with often, but think that we've really fallen off the rails since funding for first off, and then COVID after that.
It's true for this year. I guess it's been different.
Well, even before that, it was funding. We were not PFP and so forth. So
The board effectively orients new members. Mary?
Less often.
Kathy?
It's the middle one, Becky.
Scott? Oh, you want to have a comment?
No. Mary's moves to the middle. I'm in often the second one over. So
Thank you. Scott?
Oh, I'm with Mary.
Diana?
I put often.
And Jerry?
I'm with Mary and Scott.
The board reviews its governance handbook regularly. Jerry?
Almost always.
Diana?
Almost always.
Kathy?
I put often.
Mary?
Almost always.
Scott?
Often.
Are there any comments you'd like me to memorialize in this section?
I just wanted to say, I had written down a note that it would be really nice, besides the governance handbook, we'll have at least one person new in the next 2 years, because Jerry says he's probably not running again. And honestly, coming on, when Scott and I came on, the governance handbook isn't enough. And I know for Scott, I at least knew all the acronyms in education, and Scott didn't have that. So it was, I think, a little addendum or a handbook for new board members would be really helpful. I'd be happy to work on that.
Yeah, and I think we included onboarding some language that Scott provided. So I'm hoping that provided some assistance. And they used to give a whole binder. I remember when I came on, they gave a whole binder.
But that was really just Carmen handed me the bylaws.
Yeah.
And
you got the LCAP, maybe the department head, like names. And then I did give somewhere, I think it's floating around in all of our drives, but I gave acronyms to Anna and she posted them somewhere. So maybe we need to gather them and put them on our, so that it's present for everyone. I know it's somewhere, it's scanned on.
We can put it in the index of we can alphabetize it and put in the index of the governance handbook if you want, or in a definitions page.
It's actually was pretty lengthy. There was two different, I don't know if it was CDE was one and another source, but they were pretty lengthy, but it might be.
Oh, it's bad.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I've been in education since 1994. That is 26 years. And in August, it'll be 27 years. And there's still some acronyms that I hear. I'm like, what is that?
When it changes.
Well, and then this latest having the local continuity and attendance plan being an LCAP as well as the local accountability. What?
Someone thought that was a good idea somewhere. Seriously.
And I think, prior, I don't know if it was me watching another board, but they kind of had a mentor, like you had kind of like a new buddy. And so, because oftentimes you don't know what you don't know, and so you don't ask. And if you don't ask or look on your own, it's a kind of a dual thing. And so you kind of need to ask questions. But then too, I think having a buddy to say, hey, are you following, a check-in? And that's what's hard. Because I guess the CCing the president, I'm always worried about having the serial meeting, but that's really helping someone with acronyms or, what is the LCAP, or, how often do we look at a budget? I don't know, Kathy, did you recommend that to be put in a board handbook, to have a board buddy? Is that in there?
I think that's a great idea.
Or in discussion, I thought, or maybe
we just need to be careful about that. I know it's a great idea, but you can only talk to one other board member. Mm-hmm. If you relay that your board buddy is going to be one person that you ask for clarification, that's fine. But it's probably the role of the superintendent to onboard the board members a little bit better.
Okay.
Well, and if we have a handbook, they can refer to that buddy.
Anything else you'd like me to memorialize in this section?
So, Mary, to clarify, what did you want to do in addition to an onboarding packet? Is that what you were?
Yeah, just there. Yeah, a few additions. I can type it up and send it out to Becky and you, Diana.
So an onboarding packet to be separate or included in the governance, just an own. It's like its own folder.
I think it should be its own folder for a new person to be able to refer to easily.
Okay, that's a good idea. So onboard folder that can be accessible, and then maybe even this is board development, but maybe even a president folder, so that I think I read the wrong thing last night.
Well, I have a vice president folder because I don't even. Yeah.
Well, if we have a president folder, then you would access it if I fall off the cliff, tomorrow.
Don't do that.
No, I don't plan to, but so like a president folder, just so that it's accessible, so that everyone has the same information.
Mm-hmm.
And Kathy, would you help me with that? Because I'll try to do the president folder so that we're consistent.
Sure.
Anything else you'd like memorialized in the comments?
Nope. So moving on to setting direction.
The board provides opportunity for community input when developing the district's mission. The district's mission and vision. Kathy?
Okay, I'm just going to say I put less often in all this whole category, and it's really because of the lack of opportunity with COVID. So,
and is that the middle one, Kathy?
Yes.
Mary?
Same, less often.
On all of them?
No, I put often. I mean, okay, I feel like
I'll just do that.
Right.
Scott?
Almost always.
Jerry?
Often.
Diana?
Almost always.
The board adopts long-range priorities. Mary?
Often.
Jerry?
Often.
Diana?
Often.
Scott?
Less often.
The board uses the district mission and vision to drive district performance. Diana?
Often.
Mary?
Often.
Scott?
Often.
Jerry?
Often.
The board adopts clear and measurable indicators to assess district's performance. Diana?
Often.
Scott?
Often.
Mary?
Often.
Jerry?
Often.
Are there comments you'd like me to memorialize for this section?
And why I answered the way I did is I think it depends on what you think are the indicators or the performance measurable indicators. Because I feel like the LCAP, the superintendent evaluation, the budget, all those things are documents that push and follow the mission and vision. But we just formulated the new mission and vision. So I don't know what we could have done differently this year. That's what I'd like to know. What was lacking that we could have done differently. No comments.
So how would you like me to, I zoned out there for a second, Diana, sorry. How would you like me to memorialize that? Do you want me to memorialize that?
Yeah. How do we clarify what we can do differently to meet district performance? Measurable indicators or immeasurable indicators to assess district performance.
So you're talking about having a conversation with stakeholders as how we're, is that what you mean?
As a group, what are we lacking if often people put?
Mine is simply because these are things we haven't focused on in the last 9 months. Because I feel like we're so overshadowed on, we're in survival mode. And I know that's not an excuse, but that's why I rated us where we were, because we're not focused. I don't feel like we're focusing on these things because we're,
and triage. So then I wanted to know what we could do to push it through or make it more a priority. What would that be? What would that look like?
I doubt that's going to be realistic until we get beyond this pandemic.
Because I don't know if I don't think I, as a board, would want to push assessments and measurable indicators on staff when we're trying to care for the little souls.
Right.
Right. I just didn't know if it was more community meetings to get input, or actually you're looking at benchmarks and things presented to us.
Well, I think we haven't really been able to look at how our vision and mission has been received or has been used, because we're focused on whether kids are okay and feeding them and making sure they're checking in and, are safe and healthy. And I think Jerry's right. I just don't think we could move over right now. I mean, unless we really became statues and didn't care about the other things. But maybe I'm reading too much into it. Because like on the next one, I feel like, and maybe that's because we have to deal with the budget. So the next three, I put them over as almost always, because I feel like but that's again, probably because we have to, but we really still are doing an excellent job as a board to focus on the budget and not overspending and trying to be fiscally conscientious. So I just think it's the times we're in.
Yeah.
I did the same.
And so moving into, did anyone else have any other comments on the setting direction? I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't something that we should be doing that we could be doing is why I was.
Oh, it's a good point.
So hearing none, we can go to the next, which is structure. And I'm the same as Kathy. I said almost always.
Same here.
Wait.
Me too.
What are we talking about?
Those next three, 40, 41, and 42.
So all three of them you did. That's no. Okay. So Diana, you are all three on almost always. Okay. Kathy?
Yes, same thing.
Mary?
Same.
Okay.
Jerry?
Same.
And Scott?
The top two are almost always. The third one is often.
Okay, my internet is lagging here. Just an FYI, Nathan had lost internet for a little bit early. That's probably when Diana froze, maybe between 7:07 and 7:12, and so he's recording the meeting. But we just lost a little bit, just to let the public know.
Okay.
Okay. Are there comments you would like me to memorialize?
No.
Do we have any areas of improvement or?
Well, I think that I always struggle a little with the policies because there are so many, they are so long, they are so verbose, and they're not really ours. I mean, they're, we adopt them, so they're ours, but it's not like we sit here and write them. Not that I'm suggesting we do. So it's just that word of, it's just that word effective. It's so cumbersome so that's why I put often. So I don't know if there's anything right there or not. But.
Does that capture that for you, Trustee Schneider?
And may not be effective. Maybe. Because that's the word that's
Yeah, I would say to effectively review, revise, and adopt. I mean, it's like I'm really just mentioning, the process to me is I review the edits that Anna traditionally has given us. We discuss them if there's options, and otherwise we just adopt them. So it's not like we sit here, and again, I'm not suggesting we do. It's not like we sit here and be like, okay, here are our policies. Well, what do we think about this one? And, laws change, things change, so we have to revise our policies. So it's not a criticism. It's not anything I want to change. It's just why I answered the way I did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think that's daunting too, because the board policies, like last night, it was 158 pages.
Yeah.
It would be different if we had something that was, something. Remember the head lice thing? That was a very exciting board policy, and that because we had to pick some things that were pretty contentious, and so that may be a little more exciting than just law. And but that was a wild time. Somebody brought that up the other day.
I was a parent. I wrote in.
You know what, Becky? If you could delete that, because that's not really. I don't think there needs, unless you guys do. I don't think there needs to be a comment.
Any comments here? I can put none.
Yeah. Because they are effective. I mean, they're we need them. They're definitely effective.
And we're up to date, which is huge. A lot of districts aren't, and we were in a hole a little bit before. So that's persistence of Anna.
And I don't know if this question more asks about district-specific policies. So,
are we ready to go on to support?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. The board demonstrates commitment to district priorities and goals. Jerry?
Almost always.
Mary?
Almost always.
Kathy?
Often.
Diana?
Almost always.
Scott?
Almost always.
The board demonstrates support for the superintendent in carrying out board directives. Scott?
Almost always.
Mary?
Almost always.
Jerry?
Almost always.
Kathy?
Often.
Diana?
Almost always.
The board is represented at key district events. Diana?
Almost always.
Jerry?
Often.
Scott?
Often.
Kathy?
Often.
Mary?
Often.
The board celebrates district accomplishments. Kathy?
Rarely.
Is that the fourth one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Diana?
I put less often.
Scott?
Often.
Jerry?
Often.
Less often. No, I'm not on the one with Diana.
The middle.
The middle.
Third.
Thank you. Any comments you'd like to provide?
Ooh. So I just had some clarifying questions. So what is defined as a key district event that's less, what people said less often was happening? So what are events that we aren't, what does key district event mean to you that we're not attending?
Well, most of us put often, or you put almost always, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking that I don't know that I think we're doing better, but I don't know that I was thinking of ELAC and DLAC and things that I think are really important to people, that we are there. I think we're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably also COVID, because it's hard to get there and be on like this, where we're not in person and you're just this floating face and they don't really know you. And so that I know it makes a big difference when we are.
So I'm typing. Let me know if I'm not capturing what you want me to capture.
Because I feel like we are at events, but I don't know if represented. I don't know what that means. If that's what you're thinking we aren't, the board is represented at key districts. I was just thinking attending, but maybe represented means something different.
Oh, I just thought of it as being there and
Present.
Being present.
And then the
Diana, I don't know if do you want me to delete that? I don't know if it was necessary.
key request clarification on key district events. Well, I was just wondering what events we aren't attending. I mean, I really do curious on, do we have key events that we're not attending?
I just think that I feel it's really important that the board is at everything, that no site feels like we don't, and it's hard with COVID, but, I just, and I just think we could always do better and always be present. And, so that's why I just feel like the first one means there's no room for improvement. And that is something that is always, as you guys know, is really important to me, that we just try to get to as many things, even more than one of us. So that's why.
I did agree, for instance, I'm making the Parents Club meeting, I'm making the ELAC meeting, but there's awards ceremonies, virtual, there's always something more we can be doing. So that's how come I did often.
Right. Yeah. And I just felt like whatever people have committed, I assumed they did. So that's why I was thinking we almost always say we're, for the most part, when people say they're going to attend something, they do. And so I feel like that's a representation. But if we want to start having two people attend different things, I mean, I don't know. Are you wanting to have that be more?
Well, I think we need to get through COVID.
I think it's easier to attend things because we are virtual.
Yeah.
It's much easier for me to attend things, or, I always attend, but, and then the board celebrates district accomplishments. So is that a board presentation that we don't see kids at our board meetings and having more of those kinds of events? Because that's how I answered it, is that I feel like there's so much good stuff going on at the schools, and we just hate to tell them, come to our meeting at 6-7 o'clock at night and, present your lovely, choir presentation, or, have FFA present. Those are kinds of things I'd like to see. And that's why I checked less often. Does anyone else have input?
Well, I thought even if we had, groups don't necessarily have to come, but if they sent some slides and a little, or a video or a little something that we could, acknowledge and celebrate that these great things that are happening, because we do have so many great things going on, and and a lot of times we don't even all know about them. So I think that would be nice.
Kathy, do you have something?
I don't have it. I've been beating this drum for a long time, and I know that our meetings are long, and I know that our meetings, but there's a lot of good stuff in our district, and I don't think we honor or celebrate it enough.
Like, it would be great to have 5 minutes of this take the place of board reports.
Yeah.
Well, there's another thing. We did a lot of special meetings last year, or back when things were more normal. And if we were to do that and use those special meetings to just tackle very boring budget type things, then we would have more time to have acknowledgments and so on and so forth, and keep those meetings manageable for length. So I don't know. Are we going to have any discussions about special meetings, Becky, coming up?
And really the special meetings were about benchmarks. They were about the site things that we tried to pull out so that you could have more participation, and the state's pulled those away for right now. So that's why we didn't have a special meeting in June about the LCAP, because we didn't have it. We didn't have anything about the site plans because the site plans were put on hold. So we're kind of in a space with COVID right now that some of that makes it difficult. What we could do is we definitely could look at some of the special meetings a little bit more deliberate, and ask kids to pop in to give us reports. I have to say, when we had the report from Alt Ed on big picture learning and the students came in, that was invigorating. That was invigorating. And as board members, because you aren't able to go and visit sites as often, then perhaps that's something that we need to look at. Asking FFA to come in and do a report on how they're handling this virtual environment. Asking ASB to come in and do a virtual report on how they're handling this virtual environment. Asking the pod squad at Dana Gray if they're able to meet at all. Or, asking, the Redwood librarian on and giving us a presentation on maybe her library, the books that she reads online. And I'm just throwing these out there. So, before all of you, all 6 people who are watching, start calling folks and saying, oh my gosh, they're going to make you come in at night. No. I think it's really about trying to find ways. Again, keyword here, celebrate, trying to find ways to celebrate the good things that are happening in the district. And I have to say, in this virtual environment, they could pop in and pop out. And it's not, it doesn't have the drive time anymore, right? And I know that sounds ridiculous. I live, literally, it takes me 9 minutes to come from my house to here. But popping in, it saves me 20 minutes. So it's just something to consider.
Yeah, I like that idea, given that, and even if it in normal times, if we have a benchmark on a special, because some videos and slides are already created. So either someone could present or it could just be provided to supplement benchmarks to know what some of these tools are. Because I know we've had in the past, learning what the CAS test looks like. And I think Sarah came in and presented for us. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how is a 4th grader going to get through all of this? And so that is really helpful for the public as well, to see what the minutia that they're doing on the sites with, good stuff though. I mean, not just testing. I like that idea.
Gary, did I capture your words correctly?
Sure.
That means kind of.
Yeah, my point was, and you explained it perfectly, that we don't have to deal with a lot of those items, but we hopefully will be before too long. But we can always have special meetings as necessary.
That capturing that correctly? COVID has inhibited the board's ability to visit campuses and invite more folks to meetings?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to accountability?
Yes.
The board monitors student progress against established benchmarks. Jerry?
Almost always.
Scott?
Often.
Kathy?
I put less often. And again, because we haven't been doing it,
Middle, right, Kath?
Yes.
Mary?
I put often.
Diana?
I put almost always, but I understand the COVID has restricted that.
The board monitors progress towards district goals based on established success indicators. Mary?
I put almost always.
Scott?
Often.
Jerry?
Almost always.
Diana?
Often?
Kathy?
I'm in the middle where I was before.
Okay. The board monitors the performance of the board. Diana?
Often?
Kathy?
Often.
Mary?
Often.
Jerry?
Often.
Scott?
Often.
The board evaluates the performance of the superintendent based on established expectations. Scott?
Almost always.
Kathy?
Almost always.
Diana?
Almost always?
Mary?
Almost always.
Jerry?
Almost always.
Are there comments you'd like me to memorialize in this section?
maybe some of the areas were not as effective due to COVID. Or not.
Yeah, I put us in less often, not because we chose not to do it on purpose, but that we're not doing it because students are being assessed in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No.
Are we ready to move on to community leadership? The board uses, go ahead, who's speaking?
Oh, I just said yes, ma'am.
Oh, the board uses cohesive messages to communicate district priorities, goals, and needs. Scott?
Almost always.
Diana?
Almost always.
Mary?
Almost always.
Kathy?
Often.
Jerry?
Often.
The board advocates on behalf of students in public education at the local, state, and federal levels. Jerry?
Often.
Kathy?
Rarely.
Is that the
fourth
last?
one over? No, the fourth one over.
Okay. Mary?
Rarely.
Diana?
I put less often.
And Scott?
Rarely.
And yeah, this is
Oh
an
my
area.
goodness, we're done.
Yeah.
Yay! Okay.
Yeah.
So,
But this is an area that we've always struggled with. Because I think Mary was going to go to the March Initiative Day. I can't remember what is the formal name of it.
So Legislative Action Day.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just working with our leaders in those areas.
Well, and Diana, I don't know if you've thought about this, and I know you still have, young children at home, but the passion you have for, kind of the global spectrum. Have you looked into, not to put you on the spot or anything, but have you looked into maybe being at the CSBA level and, kind of what Jennifer used to do? And I mean, I don't now with everything being virtual. I mean, that would be, I know she traveled a lot before.
Yeah, that's the inhibitant for me. I mean, my family would just want to strangle me.
I'll take this out of the comments area then.
Yeah.
Well, I just think you have.
I would love it because that makes my blood pump because I love that. But being at that level and just getting the full picture. So I'm the geek that watches the State Board of Education, and you do get some, that's my level because I can do it virtually. But that would be maybe they'll create, maybe at Pacers we could talk about creating a position that's just virtual always, and it would be more, it would help us in a rural community.
Well, and it would be cheaper for them to not fly you all over the place, or they flew Jennifer.
Lodging. Yeah, but with kids it would be hard.
And I will say that when Jennifer was a delegate, that we got a lot of information, and I felt like we were more on the ground level of some things that were happening. And for our little rural community, that was a big deal. So hats off to Jennifer Owen, who did that for quite a long time and really kept our rural communities on the face of CSBA. So are there any comments you'd like me to memorialize other than this?
And I think that's what the Pacers is trying to do. So hopefully we can continue that. I can't even read that. It's been a struggle for and then just getting, I mentioned at the board meeting, a letter to our leaders because it does help CSBA.
And do you want that from the board, from the superintendent?
It could be both, really.
So should I just break it vague and just say, suggested that more letters to
state leaders, especially with they're going to try to push out the fair funding. on the ballot, I think next.
Well, and that the CSBA pushes that out to us to, support this, that, and the other thing and write letters. And
right.
Sometimes I do.
Right. And other things, resources that we're lacking or what we're struggling with, so they can, assist us. I mean, it sometimes doesn't feel like we're being heard. But
It'd be nice if they held more of those PACER meetings, the one that they held, because they saw a lot more participation, and the comments they made, I thought, I think they are actually aware of people in the rural communities, and so it was good.
Right. And that actually first rolled out when we were in one of those MIGs in Eureka. So that was kind of the first run. So I was happy that they decided to try it. And she said that they would probably meet. I mean, because I asked if they recorded that meeting, because I thought, wow, there was some good stuff in there I'd love to share. Yeah. But they didn't, and they may not. But they said that they may meet monthly, which would be interesting.
Yeah.
Because there was quite a few superintendents there as well. But I guess we can count the connection with Mendocino College and Mecca as being kind of the local public education. So you guys do that, have that connection. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're done. So it's 8:03. Were we thinking of this being our goal for this evening? I was kind of budgeting a couple of hours. I don't know what everyone else is feeling.
The Google Calendar says we're going to go from 6:10 to 8:30, so that's where my mental thought is.
So, and just a reminder for anybody who is watching, this is your only opportunity to talk to each other. That's why if you're going to do a self-evaluation, just submitting it is not really productive for you as a board member. If you're looking to really self-reflect and improve, it really is coming together and having the comments and hear each other's thinking, because you can't do that in an email. It violates the Brown Act. So this process, while most folks may not understand it, it is hugely important for you as a board. And then as we go into the board workshop in January, this gives you some highlights of potential things that you want to work on for the governance handbook. So this is all part of the process of improvement and part of the process of getting better. And so for those that, I don't know if we have anybody watching at this point, but that's the point of this exercise. Are there any comments that the board wants to make just to clarify, or anything that you want me to memorialize further?
Yeah, I think that we made appropriate comments. And then I think I had just put in for Kathy the self-evaluation that we can just look at, or maybe we can attach to this. We don't have to do it together. But I thought the questions were just an interesting approach to look at it just from yourself as an individual and just to review it. And then I also included the 100 days, which I thought was an interesting, we kind of forget what our, truly what our roles are and our restrictions. And this is tiny print, but I figured I liked that it captured some of the things that we do run into those first 100 days. And it's good to review it.
Kathy and Diana, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just recognized my title for this is FBUSD Self-Eval January 2021. Do you want me?
It needs to be, I thought we were,
Okay, do you want me to?
It's December.
Okay.
Oh, the title, but the document actually still says 20, doesn't it?
Yes. Because I thought we were going to do it in, the document does say 2020, calendar year 2020.
Well, I saved it in Google Docs just so that it could be done more easily. We could do Word documents in Google Docs, but it's not as it's not as seamless.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, please go ahead and take the.
Okay, so that's been fixed.
So you converted it to a doc. Is that what
I did, and it's you all still have access to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just drug it in from my computer.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, anything else for that you need me to do with this document?
Nope, we still all have access to it. So Diana, do you want to have us look at what we did complete and Becky updated, and then look at that other document you provided, and then we'll just leave the agenda the way it is, and we'll pick up in January? Is that what you were thinking?
Yes. I mean, it's really, the other ones were really self reflection and reading on your own, but just providing that, maybe even putting all of these when they're finished, less the superintendent evaluation. I think that was in there for just to reference it, but to have it on the document, the packet for the January 23rd meeting. So the public can see them as well. So do we want to continue till 8:30 or just break here? Are we feeling, what do we want to do?
Well, if we're going to go ahead and tackle this document as well, I'm okay with that if we could take a break between.
What document are you holding, Sherry? The district priority?
My role as a board member.
Oh, that's the thing, Diana. Okay.
Diana, where? I don't know that I have that. Where did that come from?
That's in
It's in that folder.
Oh, in the. Wait.
The November 20th email from Kathy had like 4 different documents.
Oh yeah, I downloaded. Oh, I downloaded all those.
That's where I got this one.
Okay.
But we could fill this out individually and bring it back, or just have it be private. I didn't intend, I don't have any direction on it. I just saw the, I don't know what anyone else thinks. What do you think, Kathy?
I'm not sure. I
would say at this point,
you guys have to realize that I've been pushing for 5 years about trying to build, and I feel like, I don't know. I just, sometimes I feel like the conversation, and maybe we're dealing with COVID, but I feel like, I'm just talking to myself, so I'm going to let you roll with whatever you feel.
Well, no,
what you're feeling.
I'm not a martyr. Would it be helpful?
I feel like you get out of it what you put into it, and I don't know.
Why don't we fill it out? So do you want to fill it out and then we'll go over it the next time? Do you feel like, what I'm asking is, do you think this is going to be productive and we'll glean some importance from it?
So what I would suggest
personally, I would, but I can do it on my own. And if you just want to check in next time, but I'm going to follow your lead, Diana.
And Becky, what is your input?
And I'm not trying to be funny. I'm really I really am kind of on the fence about this. So
I would just say that if you really want to make the tool important and reflective, then you should spend some time and do it on your own. Because what will happen is 24 hours later, you might want to go back and change things. And then when you come together in January, you could spend some time looking at it. And then I would also say that at the January time when we have that special meeting, that you also do my superintendent evaluation at that point, because you could be together and close to do that. I'd also suggest in a January meeting that maybe we go from 9 a.m. to noon instead of 10 a.m. to 1.
And I'll just offer, I know I wasn't asked, but I think the questions under the general section might be good if any of us have thoughts on that when we meet in January. Because I don't really know if I want to talk about how I rate myself, but I think the questions under general are pretty important.
Is that the second page? What are you talking about, general?
It's under section 6 is my role as a board member. Then under that, it says section 8, general. First question is, what should the board concentrate on next year?
I like those as well, the general.
What are the major strengths? How could the effectiveness be improved? Do you feel we're headed in the right direction? Just a suggestion.
And so, okay, going back, so I hear what you're saying, Scott. So are you saying that you want us to do your mid evaluation, or actually start on your end of the year evaluation in January at the regular meeting. Is that what you were saying, Becky?
I was just thinking that the mid-year evaluation that you do on me, we could do it at the January special meeting.
This workshop on the Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And traditionally we just approved the tool, and then we don't actually fill that document out. Becky just provides a narrative addressing those indicators.
Enclosed.
Right. And then we ask her questions about it, and
okay.
But we don't actually.
The mid-year review in closed session on the Saturday, January 23rd. Okay.
And then I would also suggest that we have folks email me if they want the link, so that Nathan doesn't have to come in on a Saturday and film. That's really a board workshop. It's above board. People are welcome to watch, and we can or we could ask Nate to come in and do it. But that might be a little difficult for him.
So how I've noticed on the emails, everyone has like a board meet. Can they just click in that way to get to that meeting, or no? You have to actually do a Google Meet and send them a link.
So what we do for like the board chat, when someone emails me and says, I would like to be part of the board chat, then I put them on the invite so that they can click into the meet.
Okay.
Or I send them the code so they can come into the meet.
Okay. So how will we get that out? Just doing a parent square to say, if you'd like to attend, email superintendent.
And then we put it on our the front page of the district website where the board information is.
Okay.
And we also put it on the agenda as a hyperlink to be able to email me.
Okay, that's probably a good idea as well, because Nate's time you also suggested that we change it to 9 to noon.
I think that if we're going to meet, let's just meet in the morning and do it.
Okay. Does anyone else have a conflict with that time range change? Is that fine?
It works.
Kathy, do you know your schedule for that Saturday?
I'll mark the Saturday off.
Okay, 9 to noon. We'll make it 9 to noon. And then we'll put everything on this agenda, on that agenda, including the closed mid-year. And then we're still, I kind of like the coding up top, the strongly disagree, neither agree or disagree, agree, strongly agree. I like that language better. Maybe we can consider that for next year. And they have
for the board evaluation. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think I get hung up on the words, unfortunately. On the
it's
other.
Almost always.
It's either it's always, I don't know, or rarely, anyway. But so any further discussion on what we're going to do with this? So Scott says he doesn't really want to fill out my role, but likes the general. I guess we can fill it out what we want and contribute what we want to.
Yeah. I wasn't suggesting we don't fill it out. I think the questions that come from filling it out are what would be important to share.
Okay. So I think that you fill out what you're comfortable with, and we will share it more of a readout. I don't know that we need to, we can compile, we can decide then if we want to compile, but it would be a good discussion. I just like sometimes you have to reflect within, to grow. So it's 8:16. Kathy, what are we going to do with 2.2? Is there something that we need to attach, board priorities and district priorities?
I think that was on there when we were trying to do our vision and mission.
Okay.
I think we just copied over. I don't even know if we, but you could cover a lot of things under there, I think, if you just wanted to leave it alone. But
okay,
board priorities, we could talk about trying to improve the representation, some of those things that we got, what's the column, things that we got less often or rarely. If we wanted to make goals for ourselves.
Okay.
I'm not sure we could really address district priorities right now because we're in survival or in triage.
Okay. And then,
but I think Diana, we did I really would encourage you to, if you have ideas, I know the agenda's not out, so you can definitely change for the next workshop.
Well, I think this covers it. I don't know if we have enough time
but
bolster it. And then the governance handbook we'll review and read, and we can make edits at that meeting. And then the calendar, I think I suggested having that because I don't know if Anna used that, what her process was, but I think it's always important, especially for the president or the new assistant, to have something. But I really don't know. I mean, I'd love to have Anna to know, like, what was her process to know why she's not using that document. Does she have a better tool that she was using that we should be looking at as well? I don't know. That's why
it appeared to me that she went back to the prior year's agenda and really went off of those things.
Right.
So that's what seemed to work for her.
Mm-hmm. Because she had access to all that. I like the calendar because I think it's good for a new board member as well to kind of look at it as I think it's only 4 or 5 pages and it's during a month, just looking, because she'd have the time to scroll through a packet or made time. And then board training, budget, and plan. Do we need anything attached for that, or that's just a discussion piece? Kathy?
I have I imagine we're not going to have, there's no money, and so I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of discussion on that. That might have to be a tabled item till we, but we could maybe each one of us look out and find something, the webinars that are on CSBA or share. Maybe we could use that as a, Mary could share something from her CSBA. I attended the webinar yesterday for social emotional and tomorrow's efficiency and distance learning. So I could share about those, and, we could just kind of do a little roundtable.
It's a good idea. Because go ahead, Becky.
If there are things that the board is truly interested in, this would be the time to actually look at them seriously. And the reason is because we don't have lodging, we don't have travel, we don't have meals associated with that. So, for instance, all the MIG trainings right now are virtual. Mm-hmm. I still need MIG 5, I think it is. I'm not sure what other people need.
But there's the president's, there's a one for that Diana could go to.
It's $395 virtual. It's like $830 to it's one day. It just seems pretty pricey for virtual, but I guess that's just the rate, the normal rate, just without the lodging.
That's the normal rate if it were live, and the difference is it would be lodging.
Yeah, right. And travel and time. Mm-hmm. So I probably will try to do that on my own if we don't have the budget, because I think, 8:30 to 4:30 sounds pretty thorough. Maybe I would hope I'd get something from it, but I do have, which I'm willing to.
But we do have the money. We do have the money for that. That's again, you're talking about a $395. It's a training that if you need it, you need it, but it's half the cost if we had to send you with lodging and mileage and meals. So that's why I'm saying if there are particular things that you think are very poignant at this time, then let's look at it in a virtual setting, because it does allow us to save money.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we can decide next meeting, maybe we could each pick something and see if that's something that we could propose to Wendy and see, is this okay if we all pick one class that's $395? I don't know. I don't know how to approach it, but.
Well, I think what you do is you look at it and ask yourself as a board and a board member, where are the holes? Like, for instance, is anybody else, I think, Scott, are you and I the ones that just need MIG 5?
I think so.
So maybe Scott and I do MIG 5, because the price is going to be the same this year and next year on MIG 5. However, we won't need 2 hotel rooms. We won't need 2, mileage. We won't need the days of meals. Those things, whether we pay for it this year, we pay for it next year, is not as significant if we can remove the travel. Mm-hmm. So if the priority for the board is to do some of this, then we should look at it and decide how to do it. And it doesn't need to be an even Stevens kind of thing where everybody gets one. It just,
right.
What are the ones that we need to do that meets the priorities? Because one of the priorities was that all of us were going to be Masters in Governance trained.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Scott and I are the last two holdouts. So whether we do it now, whether we do it next year, the goal is to get it done regardless. So if we're going to pay for it regardless, now would be the time to do it if we both can afford the time, because we don't have the travel and the lodging. So Diana, I say the same to you. If within the next year you are going to want to do the president's training, then I would do it earlier in your presidency instead of later.
Well, it's February. It's in February.
Yeah.
So, and what I could also do is with that folder, create something that I'm getting from that, so that that $395 will get shared with everyone.
Yeah, it makes good sense.
Any comments from Kathy or Jerry?
Well, no, I think that'd be great, because potentially Mary's going to be president someday. Scott might be, and then Kathy and I can see some of the things we did wrong.
Or suggest like that's not our protocol practice. Let's not do it that way and have that discussion.
Sure.
And there's many ways to brew a cup of coffee, I'll say.
Yeah, there were different districts that were adamantly doing things differently and all thought they were doing it correctly.
Right. And they probably really were. I mean, they weren't violating anything. It was just a different practice. And so it'd be nice to have consistency or adjusting something that didn't really work, that we all can agree on.
Yeah, and I was never trained because it was an off year on us going to CSBA, and then I kept bugging them about doing it online, and they never did it, and so I was purely flying by the seat of my pants and thought I was doing it right.
And you did a great job.
You did a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. But you just always wonder what tidbits that would have helped, at frustrating times, the leadership part of it, like the things that still are burning in you after 5 years, maybe they would have gleaned, an approach on how to address that, or like the PACER meeting relieves some of your like, wow, everyone's feeling this. So I shouldn't feel like it's our, island problem. Okay. So we have kind of our marching orders. Anything else to contribute before we adjourn? Becky, anyone? Okay. So
I'm just giggling. We've got 7 whole viewers. So
wow, that's pretty good.
That's pretty impressive, I have to say. To the 7 of you out there, hurrah!
I'd be interested I'll have to go look how many watched last night, because this seems way less interesting than.
Can you see how many, Kathy?
From last.
I guess. Well, I don't. Doesn't show you on the bottom how many people have watched?
I don't know. Oh, like hits.
Yeah. Well, we don't need to stay on. I'll go look. I was just curious. I mean, sounds a lot.
We'll report out.
Okay. Well, good time. So thank you all for being here. Is there anything that you need me to do prior to the next meeting?
The next regular meeting or the next?
Just in general. In general.
Okay. Your narrative.
Take some time off.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Happy holidays. I felt terrible. I didn't tell any staff, if anyone's listening. I'm still not holiday. Like I still have to work.
Yeah.
I don't get a break. So I kind of get tunnel vision this time of year because it's survival. But I appreciate everyone. I'm glad to finally have this year come to an end. I don't know what we're going to approach in January, but I appreciate all of you, everyone, staff, and hope everyone has a great holiday.
So thank you to Nate. He's probably waiting to go home. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nate.
Very good. And Jerry, motion to
Adjourn.
Thank you. And we'll have, who wants to second?
I'll second.
Very good. Thank you. Good night, all.
Thanks.
Night.
Thank you, Nate.